Hello and welcome to my channel, Bevvy with Beth. I'm Beth, and here on this channel I talk all about polycystic ovarian syndrome, the symptoms, how to cope with them, and how they affect me in my everyday life. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below to catch my videos every single week. And today we're just going to do a little bit of an update. Since it has been about a year since I last filmed a video, I haven't really talked about where I'm at or what I'm doing with my PCOS in a while, and I'm going to be touching a little bit on the B6 aspect, the details of the what's and the how's that are happening right now for me. But I wanted to fill in a little bit of space between where I was last year and where I am today. So I have made myself a hot drink. This is a decaf coffee because it is after work when I'm doing this. So I don't have caffeine after, probably more like 12 p.m, but I could probably go to 2 p.m. if I really needed to. But anyway, so this is a decaf coffee with oat milk. It's the Taylor's decaf, but I decant it, so I don't have the packet to show you. But anyway, I'm going to talk about where I'm at. So looking at the previous videos that I posted last year, I can see that my main focus at that time was my gut health. This does have a little bit to do with coming off of the pill at the time, realising that the pill was affecting my gut health, but I'll probably talk about that in a bit more in-depth in a separate video where I can go through my pill and gut health journey. But that was definitely my focus in the last few videos. Where am I at now? Looking at mental health and PCOS led me also to looking at the gut microbiome. One of the things I noticed when I came off the pill, or one of the reasons why I kind of stayed on the pill, was because of how much it stabilized my moods. When I came off it, one of the things that I noticed was my shift in moods. And even though, fortunately, I live on my own, so nobody else is suffering from these constant shifts in mood. But even just for myself, it was just really frustrating to have constant anxiety, depression, confidence, high libido, low libido, wanting to socialize, not wanting to speak to anybody. So I did try taking the pill again just because I wanted to stabilize my moods. I was just at a point where I was sick of myself and constantly feeling like I didn't know how I was going to react to each day. Like it would be totally different every single day, and I just wanted something that was going to stabilize my moods. So I tried going back on the pill, and that's when I really noticed for sure that the gut health was a real issue. So my mental health was a bit better, but there were more sensitivity to lactose. There was cravings, sugar cravings through the roof, and then I had inconsistent bowel movements. You can just tell that my digestive system is unhappy with what I'm eating, which was the pill, I think, because when I stopped taking the pill, then it kind of evened back out again, even though my diet didn't change. So I knew that I couldn't keep ingesting progesterone as a mood stabilizer and a symptom controller. That wasn't working for me anymore because the cons were outweighing or just as bad as the pros. If I wasn't taking the pill, I wasn't happy. If I was taking the pill, I wasn't happy. It just wasn't an option. But then my body has always struggled with producing progesterone, or whether it became very inept at producing progesterone because of the length of time that I was on the pill for. I knew that progesterone was what my body was struggling with. And so if I could find another way of providing my body with progesterone that wasn't taking it orally, so it would possibly have less of an effect, or hopefully have less of an effect on my digestive system, but would still provide me with a lot of the benefits that I had with taking the pill, I thought this might be the road to go down. So I started doing some research, and of course both the implant and the injection forms of contraception are progesterone based. I personally got weirded out by the idea of having an implant in my arm, and just Even just thinking about it, I'm getting a bit nauseous. Like, even if at any point I felt it, no, I'd probably pass out if it was actually inside of me. Like the visceral reaction I'm having right now, just at the thought of the possibility of feeling it when it was inside me. No, I don't think I would handle that very well. So I knew that the implant wouldn't be an option for me. The other option was to have the injection. I went to my doctors to kind of discuss the options as well, and they seemed to think it was definitely worth a try because I had gotten on so well with the progesterone-based pill. This one is one where you would get an injection every 3 months. We decided to go for it. I spoke with my doctor and talked about the symptoms. We were, discussing the options, and decided to give it a try. So I went and had the injection, and that in itself was absolutely fine. First couple of weeks weren't much of a problem, but then I had one of the worst periods that I have ever had, when it was just normal periods. Like, it was really bad, incredibly heavy. I had cramps, and yeah, it really wasn't good. But I had that one big bleed, and then for the rest of the time I didn't bleed at all, which is mainly, one of the benefits of progesterone for me, is that it stops me from bleeding altogether. I don't have spotting or light bleeding. I literally just stop, don't have a period at all. So I had this like one last period that was really bad, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I get this, if it regulates and I get this regularly, or if it triggers me into having like several periods in a row, I'm going to get really ill. I would have been very anemic. I had one big bleed, and then I didn't bleed again for the rest of the time, which seemed great. I did feel like my moods were a lot more stable day to day. Another thing that progesterone helps me a lot with is sleep, which I also think is part of why my moods get so bad, is that my sleep isn't as good or wasn't as good, I should say. Wasn't as good. So then when you don't get good sleep, it's hard to handle anything anyway. I thought it might have been working, but as I was kind of like going on with life, and it was past the midpoint. So at the midpoint of the 3 months, I was a few weeks in, and I thought it was probably working. I'm like, I'm probably going to keep going for this. But from that point on, everything just started to really go downhill. I started really numbing out. Like, I just wasn't feeling anything about anything. I couldn't get excited. I couldn't get sad. I was just kind of very, very numb. And that, I think, coupled with a complete lack of libido, where there just like wasn't any excitement or enjoyment in my life, like there was nothing to be excited about, I just ended up slipping into some pretty bad depression. I mean, it's not the worst depression I've ever had, but I could tell that I was just like, my baseline just became miserable. So I didn't have these ups and downs, which in the beginning felt quite nice, but it's almost like it just went like this, like, ooh, as the time went on, my mood just got lower and lower and lower. So it wasn't up and down, which was very uncomfortable. So it felt steadier, but it was a steady decline. So since this got worse and worse, the further on I went, as I got closer to the 3-month renewal time, my mood just went further and further down. I knew that it wasn't going to be sustainable for me. I knew that I needed to just give up on contraception and on artificial hormones and on medication for me. Not that I think that it's in general a bad idea. The pill probably almost saved my life when I first went on it. And if you haven't started taking any contraception, either for contraception or for your PCOS symptoms, I would definitely say you're probably better off not taking it and trying to manage your symptoms holistically rather than taking the pill. I wouldn't have recommended that for myself when I started taking the pill. I'm not like against taking the pill or any kind of contraception, artificial hormones, whatever. I think it can definitely work. But I've just reached a point now where they're not working for me anymore. I knew that what I was going to have to do was look at different ways of moderating my moods that didn't rely on artificial hormones. And one of the things that I did notice, especially when it comes to more the depressive side of things, one of the things that can help me, particularly as at certain points in my cycle, I tend to dip naturally into more of a depressive state. So I have regularly fallen into a kind of depression. Then I'm like, oh, wait, what was that all about? I come out the other side and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's why. And so one of the things which may surprise you if you've seen the content on my channel is actually eating carbohydrates. And I found that when I wasn't on the pill, it was another motivator for me to try and go back on the pill after that 2020 video when I came off it. It wasn't just like my mood's going crazy, but also I couldn't not eat carbohydrates. And when I was on the pill, I didn't get those cravings for sugary things, sweet things like I do when I'm off the pill, especially again at certain points in my cycle. And what I found was that if I was in what I would call a good side of my cycle, so I think I'm like 97% sure that I only ovulate out of one ovary, and I'm getting this situation where I'm having periods every other month. But that's fairly predictable. So if I'm in the cycle, like either coming up to or just after an actual bleed where I've had a successful ovulation, so that cycle, I find I can be stricter with myself and mentally manage my own sugar cravings better and not eat the carbohydrates, and mainly the like things like chocolate and like treats. I feel like I need to treat yourself. Like that's what's going through my head, is this kind of like, no, I need to be like taken care of. And by having something sweet and having that kind of treat feels good or feels desired, and when I'm having a good cycle, I can kind of put that off and be like, no, you're treating yourself by not eating that. But I find when I do, whereas when I don't have an ovulation, so I'm not having a full cycle, that mental capacity to manage myself kind of goes out the window, and I do have a tendency to then eat more. So what I noticed was that then on those off cycle times, when I am eating the sugar or the carbohydrates, it doesn't have to be sugar, it's just carbohydrates, then I don't get as depressed. Whereas when I'm on a good cycle and I deny myself the sweet things, I get more depressed. So sticking to a fully keto diet isn't currently supporting my mental health. So I have to learn how to balance that, because I can't eat all the sugar all the time, all the carbohydrates all the time, because then that just makes me feel ill, which leads to the same feelings anyway, where, I'm really lethargic, I don't have any energy, I don't have any motivation, I become sad, and then I get depressed. And so I can't eat carbohydrates all the time. So I'm still currently in the process of trying to work it out, of what works best for me, what's the healthiest and the happiest that I can be. But I have introduced some complex carbohydrates, and I am a lot less concerned with my sugar consumption levels at certain points during my period, during my cycle, when it will serve me better for my mental health to consume sugar. And then other parts because it's only a part of my cycle, then the rest of my cycle, I can focus on a lot more low carbohydrate eating, experimenting with and trying to find out what best suits me now that I'm not taking the pill. And as I said before, progesterone really helps with sleep. And obviously, anybody who struggles with mental health, if you don't get enough sleep, then your mental health issues get worse. That's the same for everybody. So I knew that I needed to prioritize sleep. Now, I've always prioritized sleep. I love sleep. I do naps. I have videos here all about how I get good sleep, my good nightly routine, the supplements that I take to help me sleep, all of that kind of stuff. So sleep has never not been a priority for me, in that I've always wanted sleep. But I wanted to understand what kind of sleep I was getting, what quality of sleep I was having, and how to improve the quality of the sleep rather than just the quantity. That I knew how to get more sleep, right, by bedtimes and wake up times and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to improve that when I was asleep, I was getting the kind of sleep that I needed. So I started looking at how to improve the sleep quality that you're getting. And then the last thing that I've been working on to help with stabilizing my moods outside of taking artificial hormones has been on focusing on joy, and particularly like inner child joy, like really getting into what can I do regularly in my days, in my weeks, that actually brings me childlike joy. What are those things that when I was a child I wanted to do that made me happy that I don't do now as an adult, and how can I kind of like bring those things back in? So those were like the three things that I wanted to focus on to improve my moods and make myself just have a bit more of enjoyment in life and a good quality of life, basically. I'm going to make videos obviously on each of those things and what I've been doing and how it's been working. And so if you have any questions about those three things or any suggestions, things that you've done that have worked for you in any of those aspects, then do let me know in the comments down below, because I love to hear your experiences and any hints or tips that you could give me. So now that you're a bit more caught up on what's been happening with me and my PCOS, I hope that's given you some insight into who I am and what I've been doing, and that maybe you might want to subscribe so that you can catch what happens to me in the next year. And if you want to find out a bit more about what I'm eating currently, how I'm managing my other PCOS symptoms like my skincare and all that kind of thing, then let me know in the comments down below. What aspect of PCOS are you trying to understand and navigate, or what are some of the questions that you have about your symptoms that maybe I could create a video that would be helpful for you? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.